all for being here. For those of you who were here last week, some of these slides are going to look familiar, at least in my part of the presentation. Just a reminder, this is technical training, not sales training. We're focusing on what's new in Sentinel 8.2. The first session was actually all of the sessions are hosted by Micro Focus Product Management and Engineering, though Ted Ernst, our product manager's introductory session on what's in 8.2 was last week. So if you haven't seen that yet, I encourage you to go back and check out the recording from that. And then we also have the engineering team here, and they're going to be doing all of the presentations today. Some background noise. Sorry about that. So we have 3 sessions. Last week we recovered a number of topics, about half the topics related to what's new in Sentinel 8.2. Today we're going to be covering the latter half of Sentinel 8.2 specific material. And then July 13th we have a separate session which requires a separate registration, as you may have seen in an email yesterday. And that's going to cover the appliance changes and migration from the SLES 11 based appliance to a SLES 12 based appliance. So if you've not received the invitation for that July 13th training, please comment in the chat actually, I'll post my email address in the chat later so that you don't have to give out your personal information. I'll give out mine. And you can contact me if you haven't received that training invitation for some reason. All of the sessions, training sessions, will be recorded, and everybody who's registered for the training will receive follow-up messages with links to the recording so that you can go back and review or catch anything that you may have missed. We'll also make the recordings available on Micro Focus internal sites and the partner portal. And the posting process for these internal sites and the partner portal takes a little bit of time, so the links that you get immediately after the training today will be your best bet for getting quick access to these recordings. Everyone here is muted by default, just to minimize background noise and distraction. If you have a question, there are 2 ways to do it. One is that you can enter a question in the questions panel here, and we'll have people monitoring that and responding to it as we go. The other way you can ask a question is to raise your hand using this hand icon in your control panel. And if you raise your hand, I'll be watching for that. And if I see somebody's got their hand up, I will watch for a good breaking point in the presentation, and I'll break in and unmute you, and you can ask your question verbally if it's more complex, or for whatever reason you just prefer to ask it instead of ask it audibly instead of asking it in the chat. Today's agenda is that we're going to cover Sentinel treating IP flow as events. We're going to be talking about the data uploader tool being expanded to use Ceph and JSON formats. We'll talk about forwarding Sentinel events in common event format, or Ceph. And we'll be spending some time talking about the new machine learning and incident recommendation for alerts. And just as a reminder, there is a new GoToWebinar session so that we can invite more people to the appliance-related training. And the re-registration link is here. I'll post that into the chat also so that if you miss the email, you can catch up and make sure that you're able to attend the July 13th training next week. Just as a reminder, the old URL that you would have received when you initially registered for this session is not going to work for next week's training. You do need to re-register and get a new URL and put that on your calendar. And that is all the boring stuff. We will now hand things off to Arpendo to talk about IP flow. Arpendo, I'll let you know when your screen is showing, and it is.
Yeah, so can you see my screen?
I can.
Okay. So Hi, my name is Arpendu, and I will be talking about IP flow as events. So, as Ted has shown in the previous slides, in the previous sessions, where we have been introduced, we have migrated from NetFlow as events, NetFlow as data to IP flow as events. So, I will just take you through the whole session. Okay, so let's look at the user story. So, as an analyst perspective, so let's say Andy is an analyst in Utopia Corp, and he has been analyzing that NetFlow data since it was first introduced in a Sentinel with NetFlow Collector Manager. But the NetFlow data has been mostly separate from the rest of the event data in Sentinel. So now Andy wants to integrate NetFlow events with other events, write correlation rules, and generate alerts using NetFlow data. Visualize the NetFlow data alongside other event data in dashboards, and use NetFlow data when investigating and remediating incidents. So basically, he would be trying to do more enhanced feature with NetFlow. So this would be particularly helpful in remediating most of DDoS or data exfiltration attacks. So now, since this has to be done by an admin, so Andy reaches to Adam. So Adam is a system administrator in the same organization, and he has been recently intimated by Andy that he needs to enable IP flow as events, which is a new feature uh, added as part of Central release. So Adam would like to make sure that the configurations needed for collecting IP flow as events are in an optimum state. Adam can now configure the ArcSight smart connector to support almost all types of flows in Sentinel, and hence he can decommission his old NetFlow connector manager to make way for smart connector based flow collection. So let's give you a brief description about what the flows are. So we have three kinds of IP flow supported in Sentinel. So one is NetFlow. The network protocol is this network protocol developed by Cisco for the collection and monitoring of the network traffic flow data generated by NetFlow enabled routers and switches. We have one more named as SFlow. So it's a general purpose network traffic measurement system technology, can be embedded in any network device, and provides continuous statistics on any protocol like L2, L3, L4, and up to L7. So that all traffic throughout a network can be accurately characterized and monitored. So this is a generic type flow, and these are mostly supported in the old devices. So IETF protocol has named out a new flow type named as IPFix, created to address the need for a common universal standard of export for IP flow information from routers, switches, etc. So I will just take you through each step to finally configure your IP flow in the new Sentinel. So the step one will be to configure your ArcSight smart connector to send these flow events to Sentinel. Then we'll go to step two, where we'll enable event visualization in Sentinel, and then we will check for the switch in IP flow tab in collections. And then we'll see what we have in the dashboards to visualize the flow events in the Sentinel. So let's say so an admin needs to configure ArcSight smart connector and select the following connector based upon his requirements. So he might be selecting NetFlow. For that, he has to select IP flow option. This would support Cisco NetFlow version 9 and flexible NetFlow from iOS 15.0. Also, it supports version 9 Juniper flow events as well. So SFlow, if he wants to configure for SFlow, then he has to select SFlow as an option. This would support version 5 flow type events from any SFlow and tipping point SFlow device. And similarly for IPFix, they have to select IP flow information export as an option. This would support any IPFix version 10 device. So for if you want to know more about all these things, then you can refer the Sentinel 8.2 training session day 1, how to do all the smart connector configuration. But I will show you an example. So I will go ahead with NetFlow, and I'll show you how NetFlow smart connector is being configured. So I have my smart connector installer in OPT folder. So I just go there and select that, and I would hit that. So it will create an instance of smart connector in my uh, suggested folder. So I will go ahead and select a folder, absolute path, where I will like this to be installed. So I would give OPT Arcsite smart connectors and name it as NetFlow. So I will create a NetFlow folder and I will uh, do my installation in that folder. Then it will ask you for a link, so which you can select it as default link because we don't need that. It will be stored in root. And once you confirm all this, so your installation will be done in your particular folder, and you will have an instance of your smart connector running in that. So now if you want to configure your smart connector, you have to go to that particular folder, and then you have to go to current bin, where you will see your execution script named as run agent setup.sh. I will run this. Yeah. So now I have selected add a connector, and it will show me various options. So based off it, since I am selecting NetFlow, I will be selecting 15.9 as an option, and it will ask me for a port. So I have to give a port where I will be listening for all the NetFlow data, and I will say I will support all kind of devices, IP flow addresses. So you can mention if you have customized IP flow address. Next, we have to select Ceph syslog because we will be supporting Ceph syslog as our destination. So I give my Sentinel character manager IP. Then I have the port as 1468, which will be listening to, and I select raw TCP protocol, and my forwarder, event forwarder, I select as true, and I want get the events in a Ceph version 1. So this configures my smart character, and I have to give my name. So I will name it as NetFlow, and location as, since it's a Pro OBM, so it will be Provo, and it will register the device destination with this connector. So once it's done, it will ask you as a service what you want to name the service. So be very specific, because there will, whatever you name it as the service name, it will be appended with arc in the beginning. So your name will be arc netflow, and you need to give the star service automatically. Yes, that creates my NetFlow smart connector. Now for safer side, I will go ahead and uh, try to restart my service, so that my smart connector gets started. So as you can see, the service name will change into arc netflow. So it has been started already. So I will just go ahead and restart. Yeah. So you have seen how I can configure my smart connector, and now I will move on to my next thing. So so once we enable smart connector, there is an impact on overall EPS, because now we need to understand that the net flow will be converted into a IP flow as events. So everything will be an event. So the moment you start your smart connector, there will be a huge load on your events. So before enabling, the admin should ensure his licensed EPS rate and hardware sufficient for the increased EPS. There is option to control EPS using the aggregation feature of the ArcSight Smart Connector. The Smart Connector aggregation significantly reduces the amount of data received and helps in reducing the EPS within the threshold limits. So I will just show you how you will do that. Yes. So now I'm going to so the particular folder where I have created my smart meter. So now there I will be calling out current bin, and I will run the same script again. So this will open up my smart meter in the console mode, and then it will ask me for options. So I will go and select modify connector option, and then I will select add modifier remove destinations. So I have already created one destination as success log, so I will select that, and here I will be selecting the modify destination settings, and it gives me a whole lot of bunch of options, but I will be mostly interested in the field based aggregation because I will be doing aggregation based upon the fields. So the options here are quite specific, and we have selected some default values. If you want to play around with various options, you can go ahead and check the ArcSight Smart Connector documentation user guide, and you can see various other options if you want to. So I will be selecting the options here. So yeah, so the field names are quite case sensitive, so you must be very aware when you give the field names. So it should be exactly similar to what it has been provided here.
Arpendu, can I ask you to pause for a moment? I see there's a question from somebody named George who's got his hand up, so I'm going to unmute him and let him ask his questions.
Sure.
If you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
Actually, I typed in my question. It's just, will we be able to get a copy of the PowerPoint presentations for these events?
Yes, we'll post those to. Are you a partner or an employee? I'm sorry.
A partner.
Partner, yeah. So we'll be posting the slides to the partner portal along with the presentations. That process usually takes a bit of time, but so I'm not exactly sure how long it's going to take because it's largely out of my control. But yes, we will make them available. I just can't tell you exactly what the timing will be.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I see there's also a question from someone named Ankagiri. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. I'll unmute you also. Go ahead.
Yeah. So so I'm just giving my IP address and the source IP address and destination IP address. I'm gonna have the destination 4. So I give my fields to sum as bytes in, and I will select preserve common fields as yes, and then I complete my settings and I confirm so that those will be saved. So I will be going in and I will restart this service again. So that will start my service, and I'm good to go. So now we talked about the aggregation. So now we'll be seeing what all the fields I have added. So for IP flow, I have selected field-based aggregation, and I went to modify destination settings. I selected time interval as default 1 minute, and the event threshold default as 10,000 events. Then I have selected the field names. Let me tell you again, they were case sensitive, so you need to select your field names very specifically. So I just give it source address, address, and destination port. Then I give my fields to some as bytes in, and I say the preserve common fields as yes. So once I do all the settings, I have to start that service, restart the service in order to uh, have that saved with the aggregation. So now I will be able to control my EPS on Sentinel. So I would now move on to the next part where we need to do it in new installation. So in the new installations, the smart connector option in IP flow tab is enabled by default. So install and configure smart connector to see IP flow data in Sentinel real-time view and searches. You can do correlation rules and trigger alert, and also you can do reporting. To visualize this in dashboard, one needs to enable event visualization as described in the last week's training. Once all this is done, the admin can get the flow as events. They can see the real-time view in traditional Sentinel, but if they need to visualize the dashboard, then they need to enable event visualization, which have been described in other training. But I will still show you like how to do it for a fresh install.
Arpendu, can we pause for a question before you start the installation?
Yeah,
I'm going to unmute Ankit Giri. Go ahead and ask your question, please. Okay, well, go ahead and go ahead, Arpendu. Maybe try again later.
So this is my fresh install. I'm going to do a search where I forwarded my events, and I can see I'm getting events. So I have also configured IPFix and Xflow as well in the same machine. So I will just select all those events and I'll see whether I'm getting that or not. So now I'm getting the events. So definitely I can do all the other operations like the pollution and anything that I need to do as for a normal event I would have done before. Also, we would like to see the real-time view. So we can see the IP flow events view under events view, and I can visualize that to see my immediate net flow view over here. So I can see all my source IPs and the ports being listed out. But if you want a more enhanced research, I would recommend you to please enable event visualization. So one more thing is, so I'll go to search and then I'll show you. So we also have the NetFlow icon tab intact, so you can use that as well. So for that, you have to go to the collections. So now if you select the NetFlow icon tab, you will see there is no data error showing you because you have not configured your IP flow and you have not enabled your event visualization. So you can see a no data message over here. So I'll go here in the collections. We have an IP flow tab which has been newly introduced in the fresh install, which is enabled by default. The same thing when we go for an upgrade scenario, it will not be enabled. So I will just show you in the next slide how we will enable that and how we're going to handle that situation. So I will go to my machine and I will log in as a normal user, and then I will go to etc opt novel sentinel conf. So this is the same step which has been done in the event visualization session where we have enabled event visualization. So I'm just doing it in case you have missed that session. So here we see that the event visualization is false. So I will go ahead and I will make it as true to enable the event visualization in Sentinel. This enables my event visualization in Sentinel, and then I will go back to the Sentinel and I will see in dashboards. can see all got enabled. So I can open them and see whether it's working or not. Yeah, you can see the data in the dashboard. Also, I would like to see the netflow icon whether it's working or not. Just to wait for a second. Let me just do this. I'll do a new search. You can see the real-time data from the netflow icon. Yeah. So this part is in the new the new install and the fresh install. Let's see what we have in the upgraded install. So in the upgraded scenario, you will see that the old netflow tab in UI is renamed as IPflow, but if the netflow was previously enabled, the administrator must deliberately switch to IPflow. This change is irreversible, so the admin must confirm the change more than once. So in the upgrade setup, on old netflow data will still exist in MongoDB. Since they are not Sentinel events, the user won't be able to visualize those data in new data. The admin has to stop the old netflow collector himself and configure smart filter to collect the data once he switches to IPflow. The old netflow data will be removed after the retention period in MongoDB. So now I'll just show you how we are going to handle this in a upgrade scenario. So this is my upgrade install, and I can see the real-time view and the netflow views are still present. Once I enable those, all will be removed. And here, if I go to IPflow tab, I can see the old netflow collector manager configuration details will be still present. But if I want to move on to IPflow data, I have to follow certain steps. So there are various checks to make sure that you are not enabling it by mistake. So this is one check. Then we have this enable button, which again asks you for confirmation, and after which enables your IPflow. So once you do that, it will be logged out, system will logged out, and you have to log in again to uh, get those changes affected. So now again I go back to the collections and click on the IPflow tab. So see, that this IPflow is enabled. Now I can take my data. So we have seen how we did an upgrade install. Now we'll talk more about the dashboard, which we have in the event visualizer. So we have by default an IPflow overview dashboard. This dashboard can be reached directly from the managed dashboard as well as threat hunting dashboard. So we have given link on the threat hunting dashboard as well. So the IPflow overview dashboard contains this various child dashboards. So I will just show you one by one what are the features or the characteristics of each dashboard. So we have an overview dashboard which will show a generic overview of flow based upon various attributes. So we have tried to capture almost all the attributes and showed the visualizers for that. So I will launch the IP Flow OV dashboard. So I can see the first page here, and I can see this is the overview dashboard, which contains full of pie charts with all the attributes, and I can see uh, source address, IP address, receive flags, countries, event type. Then we have ports, like whatever attributes we can get, we have covered almost all. And once you hover over it, you can see the value or the number of flows or bytes that have been transferred between the devices. So you can, in short, you can get all the details about it. So then we have conversation dashboard, which actually portrays the details of the conversation happening between the source and the destination. So I will just show you how it works. So the communication dashboard contains target and the source in a pie chart, in a dual pie chart, and then we have bytes per second and bytes per second for target as well. And then we have a tabular chart where we get the source, target, port, bytes, flows, packets happen transferred between each source to each target. So in a nutshell, you can see all the configurations, all the communications happening between two IPs or two host names, and you can easily make a track out of it. You can filter out based upon your IPs, and you can see like what all. Suppose I select one specific IP, and you can see what all IPs are trying to communicate. And you can see the bytes per second as well as the bytes per second per target, and the tabular chart here that shows how this communication dashboard works. Then we have top end dashboard. So this is a detailed tabular view dashboard of the data based upon various attributes. So most of us may require to do some reporting or some uh, various kinds of reports we need to create. So for that, this dashboard will be quite helpful. So we have this dashboard based upon the top hits. So we have a top source, top target ports, top event type, and then we have top source as host country, and top protocols, and top target host country. So these are all the tabular data of the top hits between your devices, so that you can visualize in this particular dashboard. So then we have geoflow analysis dashboard. So this will show a detailed geographical data based upon your heat map. So an additional feature which it needs the admin to configure the IP to country map file in the SCC and map all the event configurations based upon that map file, so that you get the geo data or the latitude longitude data in the in your search, and the same will be indexed in this event visualization, so that you can get the geographical view. So we have since I am running a simulator tool which talks between two devices, one in IDC and one in US Provo. So So it shows the communication between these two devices, and I can easily map it out in my heat map, and I can see the affected areas. Yeah, so that's all about this geolocation heat map uh, dashboard. Then we have a feature specifically by for NetFlow. So this is called Flow Exporter. So this will show a detailed visualization of a Cisco NetFlow Flow Exporter, so which can be configured to explore flexible NetFlow data to remote source systems such as a Unix server running NetFlow collector. So this is for a specific NetFlow. So I will just show you how it works. So basically, NetFlow has a NetFlow also monitors the flow exporters, like how much data flow is being exported by a particular device, particular Cisco device. So it also monitors all its ingress and egress interfaces and all its inbound outbound interfaces, and see how much data is being transferred between the collector NetFlow flow exporter and the collector. So this we try to put it in a dashboard. So we have put it in a flow exporter, IP flow exporter dashboard. So we will be having, since my collector and the flow exporter is same, so I will be having data on particular same device. So I am having my inbound interfaces and outbound interfaces. If for a Cisco devices, they will have a flow exporter specifically, which will be sending the data to a flow collector, and you will be able to see the various interfaces and how much data is being transferred between those two interfaces. This can be captured in this particular dashboard and visualizations. So yeah, this is about flow exporter. So we have captured it based upon bytes, incoming packets, outgoing packets as well. So you can get a full visualization of this. Then we have traffic bandwidth analysis. So this particular dashboard will show detailed traffic or bandwidth analysis based upon per second data and upon various attributes. So if anybody wants to, if he has a huge load on his NetFlow data, then he can NetFlow devices, then he can see the traffic that is being transferred between two devices, and he can do an analysis over here. So he can do a per second analysis, and he can try to uh, make a daily report out of it. So you can see here source traffic bytes per second, target traffic bytes per second, as packets per second. Then we have ports, protocol bytes. We monitor various ports and their per second traffic that is being transferred between uh, those ports. Then we have the TCP flags, and then we have event type. Based upon each event type, how much flow, how much per second data is being transferred. So all this we can see here in this particular dashboard. So lastly, we have a raw flow records dashboard, which will give an analyst a high level analysis of how much number of flows, bytes, and packets for each type of flow devices is being offering for his devices. So you can see here. Uh, The raw data records shows the number of flows, and it also tells you the type of events for which you got the this number of flows, the number of bytes, incoming packets, outgoing packets for a particular time period, and it captures almost the high level overview of all the flows happening between two devices. So now I talked about the IP flow overview. Let's talk about the IP flow real-time dashboard. So this dashboard is a real-time dynamic dashboard. This dashboard can be reached directly from Manage Dashboard or from the IP flow icon beside each IP in IP flow event in search page. So when you search your events, you see an NetFlow icon. You can click on that, and you will be landed into the real-time dashboard. The real-time dashboard contains various visualizations based upon various attributes, and the IP flow icon adds corresponding filters associated with that event field type to this dashboard. This dashboard is quite dynamic, so it changes every second, whereas the overview dashboards are static and shows statistics for a selected time frame. So you have seen a time frame is being selected on top in the left-hand side top. The other dashboards show you very static data about for that particular time frame, whereas the real-time dashboards show you the metrics which is happening at present in your devices. So you can see the real-time flow in this. So just opening a real-time dashboard. So this the input bytes metrics. So the input byte metrics which you can see here are dynamic, whereas the total input bytes or the total output bytes or the total flows, these are all quite static. It tells you the total bytes that has been transferred between particular time frame, whereas this input bytes goes on changing whenever the metrics change. So you can see it's 7.1 kb per hour, and you can see here like it changed to the 2.8. So it's quite real time, and it shows you how the real time data is being flowing between your network devices. So yeah, so when so if you select all the particular area, it shows you in-depth details about that particular time frame, and you can see the metrics also changing for that period. So yeah, that's all about the dashboards. Let's take you to a use case. So I have a sample use cases. So I have one of the use cases as DDoS attack, and then I will show you how the data exploitation works. So I got to know that there has been a possible DOS attack in my devices, and I got an alert. So what I will do, I will try to hunt the threat. So I will do a threat hunting on threat hunting dashboard, and so I will go to. So I have a specific visualization for DOS attacks. So I can see here there has been 3 DOS attacks, particularly performed on IP 10006. I just noted it down. So now I just go to Sentinel and I search, since I know the taxonomy name for that type of event. So I will go here and search for my taxonomy. So it's extas AE IDS DOS. So I just type it down. Extas AE IDS DOS. So this is a taxonomy name for those kind of events. So I can just filter it out, and I can see those 3 events coming up. So I can see there has been an attack from this particular IP, and I will try to investigate more on it. So how do we do that? So I will click on this particular NetFlow icon, and I can see a specific period when huge packets has been transferred, and there has been some flows, data flow between that period. So I will note it down. Next, I will go to threat hunting dashboard, and I will see what all my ports and devices that got affected. So I will go to my overview dashboard and I will add a filter, say DIP 10.4.4.6, and it filters out my devices. So I saw that I have been attacked from 248.99.14.1. So I just select that particular IP, and I can see these are my ports into which data has entered, and these are my devices that got affected. Also, I can see that it's a UDP protocol, so I can confirm that there has been a UDP flood attack. So this is how we show the DOS attack. Also, we can see in the communications and select the IPs. One of them is my DIP, which I selected before, and then I will select my source IP. So that filters out my data. I can have the tabular data here, and I can make a report out of it, and I can just inform my hire manager about this incident. So this is how a DOS attack is being tackled. Similarly, I would like to know data exfiltration attack. So I will just show you how that is being happened. So there, I got to know that there has been some anomalous activities happening with an account named as Kim Keller. And with respect to that, a ticket has been also raised to analyze the traces. So I just go and search for the IP which he uses normally. So I say 10.0.0.72 is the IP which he uses normally. So, and I can see there's been frequent logon and there have been some netflow events related to it. So I just go and see the particular source IP to which he has connected to. So I see my source IP.
लेकिन अच्छा वाला क्वालिटी के ढूंढ लेंगे उसके मैं वो डिस्काउंट में करके जाते हैं अच्छे नहीं होते
Source IP as my, and then I will select, and I can see that these are the devices being attacked by this particular source IP, and I would try to put some malware into those devices or into these servers and try to resolve this issue, and I can make a whole report out of it and just inform my escalate manager about this incident. So these are the lot of IPs that have been affected. So this is how we got the use cases. So last but not the least, the troubleshooting steps. So since our troubleshooting is also our installation and the analysis part is mostly dependent upon the integration with smart card attestation and the event visualization traditional Sentinel. So you, for any issues related to this, you have to follow the troubleshooting steps that have been mentioned in those sessions. That's all. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Arpindu. I will look and see if there are any questions from the group that haven't been answered yet. We'll also check for anybody who has their hand raised. It looks like there have been a number of questions in the chat, but they've all been addressed. Sanjay, I will unmute you in just a moment. I see you have a question, or maybe it's a comment. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to know, have there been any out-of-the-box correlation rules or reports which have been included to take advantage of this netflow events?
There aren't any solution pack updates that are being released with Sentinel 8.2, so I think the easy answer is no, not at this time.
Okay, fine.
Thank you. Let's see if there's anybody else with their hand raised. There's some questions about the demo tool in the chat, and I'm hoping one of my panelists here knows the answer. So there was a question earlier about how you could pump data into the system if you don't have a Cisco device available, and the answer was that you could use the demo tool script. Then the follow-up question is the demo tool script available to everyone? And I'm guessing that this is coming from a partner. If it's not, let's assume that it is for the purposes of answering the question. I know it's available within Micro Focus. I do not think it's available to partners at this time, but can any of the panelists confirm or deny that? Okay. Well, let's assume I'm right until proven otherwise. Let's see. Are there any other questions? I see there's a question about how many event source devices are supported with one smart connector. Does anybody on the call know the answer to that one? Actually, GK, I'm going to unmute you for a moment if you don't mind, or maybe you want to respond in chat. When you ask how many event source devices, are you asking about performance and scalability, or are you asking about the breadth of coverage? Two very different questions. You're unmuted if you want to respond audibly.
Okay, both because in the previous one of the smart connector, information, there were some restrictions shared. One instance could work with only one event source device. So the first part of my question is, for how many one smart connector can connect to like routers and switchers, how many devices can be configured. The second part is from the scalability in large customer environments. If there are hundreds of routers and switches, what is the guidance on that?
Okay, so for NetFlow specifically, or any IP flow devices, so it is listed on a certain port of that particular server. So you can create as many servers as many. You can send your data from as many devices and servers from any routers or your VPNs or anything, and you can still see all your data going through a single smart connector. But there might be restriction on the EPS of a particular smart connector, which you have to see. But since it is listening on a single port, you can send as many data as you want. So there is no specific limitation on the like number of smart connectors that you have to configure for IP flow. Specifically for IP flow, you don't need to create multiple instances of smart connectors. So you can create one instance of smart connector which will be listening on a certain port, and you can point all your routers and VPNs to listen on that in that particular server. And since you will be doing also this aggregation in the that particular smart connector, I hope that will limit your EPS.
Thank you, Arpinda. Okay, I don't see any other questions at the moment, and for timing reasons, we need to move on. So thank you. I'm going to make Santosh the next presenter. We're shifting gears a little bit and talking about, in the next two presentations, which will both be by Santosh, we'll be talking about ways in which Sentinel has been enhanced to integrate better with other products. So Santosh, go ahead.
So can you quickly confirm whether my screen is visible?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. Hello everyone. I'm going to present the topic, Enhanced Data Uploader Tool to Support CVF and JSON formats.
Santosh, you went mute for some reason. Right after you introduce things. And I see your mic is self-muted. Maybe you hit something by accident. Regardless, we can't hear you at the moment.
Okay.
Santosh, try
Can
again.
you hear me now? Can you
Yes,
hear
now
me
I
now?
can.
Oh, sorry for that. Okay. So let me go through the user story. Adam, the Sentinel administrator, uses the data uploader tool in Sentinel to forward data to a scalable messaging system like Kafka, which can further be processed by other products. Currently, the tool is capable to forward data in Avro format only. So he likes to have a capability to forward the data in CEF, that is nothing but common event format, and JSON formats. He also wants event data to be forwarded to an indexing system like Elasticsearch. Uh, so let me talk about the history of the tool. Like earlier, the tool was referred to as scalable storage data uploader tool and was primarily used to migrate Sentinel data from traditional storage to scalable storage. Uh, so to address these, the tool is now enhanced, uh, enhanced to forward events in CF and JSON formats, and its name is now generalized to data uploader tool. So, Sentinel now can forward data in multiple other ways, like using integrators, data sync, reports, and by event export. However, this tool would have additional capabilities to forward historical data in other formats like CEF and JSON.
Hey, Santosh, do you mind going back and talking about what some of the limitations are of the data forwarding options that were present before Sentinel 8.2? Just in case
Okay,
people didn't have time to read the slide.
sure. So the rationale behind this tool is to have capabilities to forward Sentinel events in CF and JSON formats. So the CF forwarding is added because the CF is most widely used event formatting across all these SIM products, so including ArcSight. And JSON forwarding is because to add capability for the other industry standard systems like vertical analytics platform. So as I told, like these are the other approaches which Sentinel has currently to forward events. And I was also telling like this current tool, whatever we have enhanced this tool, would have the additional capabilities to forward historical data and and in other formats like CF and JSON. So if we have to troubleshoot this tool, like we have a data uploaded log file which can be found in var opt novel sentinel log. So this will have the status of all the logs where you can see if there is any issues. You can go back and refer to this file and troubleshoot. There are a few limitations as well. Uh, if there is a need to forward same set of events to multiple destinations, you must manually remove entries from data upload status.json file before every iteration. And also raw data forwarding is supported only with Avro event format. So coming to the usage of this tool, you must run this tool as novel user. There are a few mandatory parameters like target, from and to dates, etc. There are also optional parameters like EPS if you want to specify rate at which you want to forward data. If you want to change a topic, then you can use the parameter topic to send to a different topic name. By default, we send it to security events normalized topic, and we can send in CF and JSON format. So I can quickly jump into the demo so that I can show more details about this. So before I start the demo, let me give details about my demo setup. For this demo, I have a Sentinal. Setup, and which would act as a event source, and Kafka setup, which would act as a consumer to consume Sentinel data forward from the uploader tool. Also, let's see the command to view the data coming into Kafka for this demo. So I will use this Kafka console consumer to keep a watch on any incoming events into the topic. Security events normalized. Now, after I run this command, since there are no events forwarded as of now, I can see there is no incoming data into this topic. Let me go back and forward some events using data uploader tool. So I have to run this script. I have to log in as novel user, and OPT novel Sentinel bin is the default path where the data uploader utility is located. Let me consider time range between 2nd June and 3rd June and CF format. This might take a few seconds to initialize, and we can see total events forwarded is 6001 and total successful partitions uploaded are 2. There are no failed partitions. Now if I go back to the Kafka, I can see there are lots of events received, and now we can check 6001 messages have been received. So let me show the status file, which is located in var opt novel sentinel logs. So here we can see the partition information which are forwarded and the event count. Since we have seen like there are 2 partitions which have been uploaded, so the information will be here in this status file. So now earlier we have forwarded events in CF format. Now let me show you how to forward in JSON format. So here is the uploaded tool command, and I'm using again Kafka, and I'm using the JSON format now. So let me again keep it up of my consumer, Kafka consumer, to see the incoming events. So now we can see there are 6,205 events uploaded, and there again this has 2 partitions successfully uploaded. So if we go back to Kafka, now we can see the count of the events. Also, let's see the status of our operations. So when we see the status, we can see there are 2 more partitions which were like for the JSON format are also been updated here. There is another file, data uploader.log file, which will give you the all the comments which we have, which we can see to troubleshoot the any issues if you have any issues using this tool. So that's all for this first topic. I'll pause for a while to see if there are any questions.
Santosh, going back to the previous slide, if you don't clean out that log file in between iterations of running the tool, what are the consequences? What happens?
No, actually, if you don't clean up this file, the events will not be forwarded because it thinks it's already forwarded or processed. So if you have to forward to multiple destinations, you need to clean up this so that it can forward again.
Okay, so there's no damage done. It just doesn't have any effect if you don't remember to clean out the log.
Correct. Yeah, there is no damage.
Okay, thank you. Let me see if there are any people with their hands raised. I don't see any messages in the chat yet. Okay, I don't see anything, so let's go ahead to the next presentation.
All right. Okay, so the next presentation is on the topic Enhanced Data Uploader Tool to support CF and JSON formats. Let's have a look at the user story. Adam, the administrator, works for Acme, which just acquired Ethiopia Corporation. Acme uses an SIM system that processes CF data, say ArcSight, and Ethiopia has a significant investment in Sentinel and collects data from many different data sources. Adam and his analysts wanted to have a single system to manage data from both systems. Therefore, Adam wants Sentinel to forward real-time events to ArcSight in CF format for further processing. Okay, so to build this, there is a solution actually. So we have enhanced this syslog integrated tool with an option send in CF format. So there are no significant impact to the performance, and also there is no specific troubleshooting. It's as same as in previous releases. Let me show the event flow for this particular demo. So currently I want to show the demo with respect to like Sentinel syslog integrator forwarding events to smart connector, which collects the data in syslog daemon and then again forwards it to ArcSight TSM. So let me quickly go to the demo. So here is my Sentinel setup. And I have configured syslog integrator with smart connector IP and chosen the CF format option. So for this demo, I would use Dambala events to forward. Before I forward, let me show my ArcSight TSM console. So here I can see I have already set a filter between now and last 1 hour. So if I try to query that, I see that there are no events coming in. So now let me forward few Dambala events from my Sentinel. I'll quickly select 5 Dambala events and use event actions to forward events. So we can see all 5 events have been successfully forwarded. Now if I go back to ArcSight TSM console and then run the query again, I can now see Dambala events from Sentinel. So that's all for my demo. Let me know if you have any questions.
Santosh, do you know if this, I believe this new enhanced syslog integrator is available by default in new installations of Sentinel. Do you know if it's also available by default in upgraded installations, or does someone need to go to the Sentinel plugins page and download and install it?
Yeah, any new installations will by default have this option, and for any upgrade installations, this plugin needs to be, this integrator needs to be updated from the plugin site.
Okay, thank you. Let's see if there are any questions. So I see there's a question about forwarding events in CEF format via TCP, presumably. How many EPS are tested or supported? I don't know if you have that answer, Santosh. Maybe maybe Ananda does.
As usual, like the earlier performance, whatever is the performance numbers. So as far as I remember, it is 2000 is the EPS. 2000 to 2500 is the EPS, which can process for a bare minimum hardware.
Okay, yeah, so we don't have new performance numbers for this because it's, you know, it's basically the same as sending events in other formats. So, okay, thank you. And then there's another question about what kind of configuration is needed on the ArcSight Smart Connector for forwarding events from Sentinel after the slug integrator configuration is done. Or to phrase that a little bit differently, what kind of configuration is needed to receive those events that Sentinel is forwarding?
Since we are forwarding CEF and then ArcSight accepts CEF format, there is no specific configuration required. If you configure a syslog daemon which can understand CEF in Smart Connector, that should be fine.
This is very agnostic to what Smart Connector does. So this is a tool at the Sentinel platform side. You even if you are not using a Smart Connector, and if you're using regular Sentinel connectors, and then if you want to forward the events in the SEF format or in the JSON format, you can use this tool.
Hi Cheryl, you there?
Sorry, I just realized I was on mute. So I don't see, I do see one new question since I last was unmuted. Actually, it looks like it's just a comment. We need to configure the syslog daemon in the smart connector to receive CEF events from the Sentinel syslog integrator, which from what I understand is pretty basic configuration for the smart connector. So I don't see any other questions, so let's go ahead and move on to the next presentation. Thank you, Santosh. I'll make Manohar our presenter now.
Thank you.
And Manohar, I will confirm when I see your screen.
Okay.
Okay.
You able to see my screen, Shahid?
I am.
Okay. So, hello everyone. I'm just going to give a demo on the incident recommendation on alerts using machine learning, which is the new feature which has been introduced in Sentinel 8.2. So this is a user story we are trying to achieve. OP, who is the operator at Acme, performs forensic analysis on Sentinel alerts on a daily basis. While doing that, OP will be trying to determine whether to create a new incident or to escalate an alert to an existing incident one, so that the Andy, the analyst, can continue with further investigation. So in a typical deployment scenarios of Sentinel, Sentinel can generate thousands of alerts per day. So there's a lot of manual effort to OP and team to determine whether an alert is false positive or critical enough for further escalation. So in this regard, OP could do his job faster and better if Sentinel provides a way of recommendation for escalating alerts to a specific incident based on historical alert to incident recommendation patterns. The solution for this, the Sentinel 8.2 comes with the solution for this problem by using the supervised based machine learning technique that will learn from historical alert to incident escalation. So here I just want to give some information on what is supervised here. So in the machine learning world, the algorithms will be falling into two categories. One is supervised and one is unsupervised. The supervised machine learning techniques can be applied to the data set which are tagged. So in the context of alert to incident escalation, the data set is alert and the tag is incident. So since we are escalating alert to the incident, we can use this the supervised machine learning technique for recommending alert to incident escalations. So once the historical alert to incident escalation, the data has been learned and the model is generated, the Sentinel makes use of this recommendation for providing recommendation on escalating the new alerts to the existing incidents. So this is about some more detailed information on the incident recommendation in Sentinel. The Sentinel uses the machine learning to learn from the historical alert to incident escalation information. So based on this learning, the Sentinel provides the recommendation score in terms of percentage on the probability of an alert that can be escalated to a incident. So along with providing the probability of escalating an alert to incident, Sentinel also provides information on it also provides it also recommends to which specific incident an alert is likely to be escalated. And even in that, even in the recommendation, there will be the percent of probability match of how much probability that alert can be escalated to that specific incident. So the recommendation is for alerts which are in the new and investigation state. The closed alerts are not considered here because the closed alerts are the source of the learnings. So the machine learning model will learn from these closed alerts. So it is up to the analyst to accept or reject Sentinel recommendation. So when the analyst, so this action of the analyst will be recorded in this alert incident action, and that action will be used will be used for the future recommendations. So these are some of the configurable options which are available for this feature. So The Sentinel uses the concept of the feature selection. So Sentinel has been for this feature. We have selected the most important 32 features of an alert. So that will be used for learning about the alert. But again, the option can be configurable. So you can, or any user who wants to override that property, say like if some customer is using some custom property and they want to use it as a part of the learning, they can use the Sentinel incident recommendation model generation feature fields by setting that this property with the set of fields. So the Sentinel will use this additional fields for for feature selection. And again, by default, Sentinel regenerates the model for every 3 hours. And this can be configured by the below property, like Sentinel incident recommendation model generation dot interval. So admin can override above settings in the configuration properties, which is available in etc opt novel Sentinel config. So once this the configurations are being done, the Sentinel needs to restart so that the above configuration changes will be taken into effect. So in terms of troubleshooting, there are a couple of troubleshooting steps to know the status of the model generation. So Sentinel uses the Spark ML for the Spark ML machine learning library for this feature. So by setting the Spark UI show console progress and Spark UI enabled, we can get to know the status of the model generation process. And if user wants to know the statistics of how long the model generation is taking, and also how long the prediction is taking, they can set these properties, the com micro focus Sentinel recommendation dot level all, and the other one in the server underscore log dot prop, so that the user can see the more detailed information. And the changes to the server underscore log dot prop doesn't need a restart of the Sentinel process. It will just take the latest configurations done. So I mean, on how to improve the accuracy of the recommendation. So I mean, as a part of the machine learning, if you have a more data, the more accurate the model will provide the recommendation. So in Sentinel by default, we have a cap of 1 million alerts. So that will be used for 1 million closed alerts that will be used for a learning basis. But if that needs to be increased, so like alerts have a retention period. So if some of the customers have the higher retention value, and so in that case we can have the more alerts in a database. So we can configure this the property which is highlighted in blue to say 2 million or 3 million. So once this changes is done, the Sentinel will take this amount of alerts which are in a closed state for learning purpose. So one thing to consider here is that if the limit is more, the more time it takes for generating the model. So having said that, let me go to the demo. So I'm logged in as an OP. I'm an operator. I just logged in, and as for my daily routine, I just go to my thread dashboard, and I can see that there are 5 alerts assigned to me. So these are the 5 alerts. So some are in a medium, low priority. And when it goes through, you can see the OP can see this incident property column, and each of them has provided with the recommendation on how much likely that this alert can be escalated. So OP has an option to sort it based on the ascending order, so that the alert which is high probability can be acted fast. So after doing that, OP can see that there is one specific alert, which is the 90% chances of being escalated. And there are a few others like 85, 80, and 75, and 10 as well. So OP, since the probability of this specific alert is very high, OP will select the alert and does the escalates. So when the OP selects escalate, the Sentinel will also provide the list of incidents which is alert can be likely to be escalated. So these are the four set of incidents which are available in the Sentinel, and you can see that there's a 90% relevance. So the alert is most likely to be escalated to this specific incident. So let's assume that, and you can see here that the relevance score is based on last week. I mean, close 3 years ago, because by default, Sentinel generates a model for every 3 years. So hence the reason it is showing it as a 3 years ago. Okay, so assuming that Sentinel, the OP selects this alert, and it just clicks on the escalate. So once OP escalates this alert will be closed, and the specific incident will be knowing this information. So after this, when again the model gets generated, if again the same alert of multiple failed login comes in, the probability of that alert specific to the incident increases. So I mean, before I did the action, the probability was 90%. So after this activity, when the similar alert comes, the probability will shoot up. It will become like 90+%. So, so if you again, I mean, it is somewhat similar to this alert as well. This like file download activity. Again, if OP try to escalate, OP can see the list of the incidents which are most relevant. You can see that this is an incident which is very much relevant, so that is very much relevant to the alert which you are trying to escalate. So one thing OP sees is that there is one alert, I mean, which is of 10% probability. So OP needs to interpret in this thing in the two ways. Either this alert is false positive, meaning that there are the chances of this kind of alert coming to the system and which have been closed as a false positive, or this alert is something new into the system, which Sentinel system is seen it newly. So since the system has seen this newly, and the model, the recommendation engine doesn't know about this alert, the Sentinel will provide the recommendation of as a very low. It will say 10%. So for this kind of alerts, it is up to the OP to determine whether it is really a false positive, or is it serious enough for creating a new incident. So also, like, I mean, if OP tries to escalate an incident, if OP feels that, okay, this is not a correct incident, OP can still go and create a new incident. Okay, so again, I mean, if a user, if OP closes this incident as a false positive, and again, if and after model generation, if a new alert comes with the specific type, the recommendation will be very low. It will reduce still further. It will be 8% or 7%. So by this, like, as and when the more the data comes to the system and more the algorithm learns about the different kind of data, the more the accurate the recommendation the Sentinel can provide to the OP. So okay, let me show you like how the recommendation engine works. So recommendation engine of Sentinel normally works on the closed alerts. So in this case, for this demo, I have a couple of alerts, kind of close to 16 alerts. Out of this, some 70% has been escalated to the incidents, and some of them as false on this are been marked as false positives. The Sentinel will use this this closed alerts, and it will generate a model and also also figures out that which incident each alert has been escalated to, and you'll use this information to know about the historical pattern, and you'll generate the model. And again, when the new alerts come into the system, that learning will be applied on these new alerts, and it will provide the recommendation, as you can see in this table. So as I said, like, again, I mean, more the data the system has, and it will learn more about the data, and more accurate the Sentinel can provide the incident probability. Yep, I guess this is about this demo. If any questions, probably I can take that.
All right, I'm checking for questions. Sanjay, I'm unmuting you.
Yeah. So, Manohar, there's a limit of, by default, of 1 million alerts, right, to be considered for model generation.
Yeah,
So, if there are more than 1 million alerts in the system, closed alerts, and the limit is set to 1 million, then the most recent,
correct.
um,
The most recent closed alerts will be taken into account.
okay. And there's another question, like if the retention period is kicks in and the closed alerts get deleted. So in that case, when the new model is generated, it will consider, it will generate, it will lose that, it will generate freshly for the new alerts, right? The old alerts.
Uh, so yeah, the model generation will be on the alerts which are available in the Sentinel at that point of time.
Yeah. Okay.
But if it's
Okay.
based on the last 3 hours, then I assume that most retention policies are long enough to account for at least 3 hours of data, right? Or
Yeah,
am I?
so retention is 90 days for closed alerts, so it will be there.
Yeah. And after retention, those alerts will be deleted, but newer alerts would have come by then, and the model will be generated based on the newer alerts, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I see there's another question. GK, I'm actually going to unmute you if you don't mind, because I'm not sure I understood the question that you typed. Hopefully, I'm not catching you unawares. You're unmuted now.
Okay. Basically, with the way it was shown, the incident probability and the priority used by operator, how long it's going to, how many incidents such judgmental with the operator will be taken by the machine learning or the artificial intelligence for the future incidents to be not shown as an alert for handling or shown. That's what I wanted to know. And is that kind of configurable? The potential risk I see is, let's say, if it is done in for one case one way, and if that is immediately picked, and the immediate next thing it's not showing, it may cause conflict.
Okay, so the list of incidents what you see here is the incidents which are the part of the learning. So these are the incidents along with the incidents which are not part of the learning. So all those incidents will be listed in this panel.
Okay.
So technically all the incidents will be listed here. Since the model knows about the incidents which are part of the training, it will provide the recommendations on only those incidents which is aware of. So rest of the incidents which do not have any alerts assignment will be shown in the bottom of these things.
And I assume that if
Also,
there are
GK,
more than can show up there, you can also, it looks like there's also a find option there.
Yeah, there's no limit in the UI. Since I have 4, but you can scroll down. You can have a scroll option here. If there are more incidents, you can just scroll down, and it can be searched also here from here.
Pradeep, I think you were getting ready to say something.
no, it's Sujit here. So,
Sujit.
I was going to say the model generation in itself happens by default in 3 hours. So
Since I have 4, but you can scroll down. You can have a scroll option here. If there are more incidents, you can just scroll down, and it can be searched also here from here.
Pradeep, I think you were getting ready to say something.
no, it's Sujit here. So,
Sujit.
I was going to say the model generation in itself happens by default in 3 hours. So every 3 hours we take the closed alerts and create the model, which is actually configurable. So depending on if you're worried about the impact, you can always go ahead and configure that time interval by which the system calculates this model.
Okay, that helps. Thank you.
All right, let's see if there are any other questions. Thank you, GK. All right, I don't see any other questions at the moment. Okay, well, I'll throw it open now for any questions about the materials presented today. That was our last presentation, and we've finished up a bit earlier than expected. So if you have other questions that maybe you didn't have a time to ask earlier, now's a great time. Sanjay, I'm unmuting you. I think I should have made you a panelist.
No, I just wanted to recheck on the demo tool being available to partners. So I think it is available to sales engineers, but partners will be external, right?
Right.
Okay. Maybe then it can be made available on a case-to-case basis or something like that.
Yeah, we can consider that. If you have a need for it, email me and we can have an internal discussion about that. Right now, we don't distribute it externally or really have a mechanism to do so easily. But yeah, but we can consider that, like you said, on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Well, I don't see any other questions, so I think we'll go ahead and wrap things up a little bit early. You have about an extra half an hour back in your day, so use it well. Happy Friday and happy weekend, everybody. Hopefully we'll see all of you next Friday. Let me just bring up real quick a quick preview of what's coming up on Friday. Give me just a second. I wasn't planning this, so I don't have it open, but I can get it open quickly. So let me make myself the presenter. Sorry, I thought that would be faster than it was. Let's see. Okay, so on next Friday, we'll be giving an overview of the new SLES 12 appliance. Previous appliances were based on SLES 11, but that will be going out of support next March. So we've made a SLES 12 appliance available and are starting the process to end support for the SLES 11 appliance. With regard to the appliance, we'll be talking about fresh installations as well as the upgrade process for both Sentinel and Change Guardian, which use similar mechanisms for their appliances. So as you go from the SLES 11 appliance to the SLES 12 appliance, there will be a couple steps, one of which is upgrading the operating system itself, and then obviously you have to upgrade Sentinel and Change Guardian as well, and there's a little bit of configuration you need to do because there will be a new NCC channel to provide updates for the new SLES 12 appliance going forward. There's also a new administrative console that we'll cover. We'll talk about how to upgrade the appliance if you don't have direct internet access. And we'll also be talking about how to scale Change Guardian agents with Sentinel using the HTTP server connector, which is brand new with this 8.2 release. So hopefully we will see you back next week. I'd like to thank everybody for attending. I'd like to thank our presenters and the people who've been helping to field questions. And like I said, I hope you all have a nice weekend. Thank you. Goodbye.